Question 13 is a flaw/descriptive weakening question. This one is a very cookie cutter. It's almost like a carbon copy of that Dramamine seasickness medication question from very, very long ago, back in our core curriculum. We talk about that. Anyway, so they say identify a flaw. There's at least one other glaring flaw that comes out from this conclusion, which is, if I tell you 1% of apples are delicious, so therefore how many apples are delicious? Well, that's a stupid question because percentages don't translate to numbers like that. You need to know the denominator, right? You need to know 1%. Well, how many apples do we have? If we have 100 apples, then it's 1, right? If we have 200 apples, then it's 2. So anyway, you get the idea. But that flaw was none of the answers talk about that flaw, right? They talk about the Dramamine anti-seasickness medication flaw. So let's take a look. This question also takes the shape of a phenomenon, and then once we identify the phenomenon, we tell a story. We tell a hypothesis about the phenomenon, and of course, this hypothesis sucks. So a survey, a police department keeps track of national crime rates, which is the annual number of crimes per 100,000 people. So I don't know, let's just say theft. It was 1 per 100,000 people. The survey shows no significant reduction in crime rate in the past 20 years. So let's just make this easy. Let's say 20 years ago was 1980. I understand now is not 2000. So no significant reduction, right? So back then it was 1 out of 100,000 was our theft rate. What is it now? Well, either the same, right? No significant reduction. So about the same. Let's just write some words. About the same or higher, right? About the same or higher. So, which world is it's either the same world, right? About the same world, or it's a worse world, or crime rates are higher, right? So crime rates is just not significantly reduced. That's just what that means. But hey, look what else happened. Incarceration rates skyrocketed, right? We sort of, quote unquote, gave society medication, right? In incarceration rates went up, right, from 1980 to 2000. Incarceration went up. So see, do you see what I mean when I say it's kind of like the drama, people get seasick, they're still seasick, or even worse, right? Who reports getting symptoms of seasick? Who reports they're throwing up, right? People who took Dramamine, right? Incarceration rates have skyrocketed. People took a lot of Dramamine, and even despite the fact that incarceration has skyrocketed, that people took anti-seasickness medication, right? They still report symptoms of seasickness. The theft has increased, or about the same, or same level of seasickness. Therefore, we conclude anti-seasickness medication is useless, right? Therefore, we conclude, right, in this conclusion, our society's medication for curing crime is useless. Demonstrates putting more people in prison cannot help to reduce crime, right? So now, of course, the mistake back in the seasickness medication was that this would have been way worse if they would have been dead, let's say, if they didn't take anti-seasickness medication, right? So the analog here is that this could have been way worse if incarceration rates didn't go up, right? So that's exactly what B says. Ignores the possibility that crime rates would have significantly increased if it had not been for the greater rate of imprisonment, right? Analog to seasickness, ignores the possibility that symptoms of seasickness would have been significantly worse if it wasn't for Dramamine, right? So it's a carbon copy of that question. Now the glaring error I kind of pointed out was that putting more people in prison, I don't know that happened, right? Because what we were told is that the rate of incarceration has, right, the percentage of the population has increased substantially, right? That's like that question I asked you in the beginning. Percentages don't translate directly into numbers without knowing the denominator, right? You can't just be like, oh, I don't know, 5% went up to 50%, therefore way more numbers. No. What if the denominator is 1 billion over here and denominator is 10 over here? Right, 50% of 10 is 5. I'll let you figure out what 5% of a billion is. Right, so I mean, of course, none of the other answer choices say anything close to that. Infers without justification because national crime rate has increased. The number of crimes reported by each police department has what are you high on? Overlooks the possibility that the population has increased significantly over the past 20 years. I don't think was that overlooked? I don't think they presume anything about the denominator. Or actually, I take that back. I think the presumption is that the population stayed the same or increased, right? So it certainly didn't overlook the possibility that population has increased, right? I think the presumption made was that because in order to go from, increased percentage, therefore increased number, you have to presume that the population was constant or it increased. So you certainly didn't overlook it, Right? Presumes without providing warrant that alternative measures reducing crime would be more effective. What? Takes for granted that the number of prisoners must be proportional to the number of crimes committed. I mean, what are our numbers of prisoners? We don't know, right? What are the number of crimes committed? We also don't know. So it presumes that one thing that the argument doesn't know must be proportional to another thing that the argument doesn't know. Yeah, great answer choice.